Before your words are understood, your tone is felt. Before you finish your sentence, your voice has already told the truth. And that truth, your emotion, your intention, your energy, it either invites or rejects, comforts or wounds, opens or closes the space between you and the one listening. You might not mean to sound irritated, but if there's tension in your voice, they'll feel it. You might think your words are encouraging, but if your tone sounds rushed, they'll hear pressure, not support. That's the subtle power of vocal emotion. It bypasses logic. It speaks straight to the nervous system. It tells people whether they are safe or not. And here's what most people miss. Your tone doesn't come from your mouth. It comes from your state of being. If you're anxious, it leaks out. If you're resentful, it wraps around your words, even if your message is kind. If you're truly grounded, calm, and compassionate, your voice will carry that peace, even through hard truth. And people know it. They may not be able to name it, but they feel it. That's why two people can say the exact same thing, and only one creates trust. The other, they trigger resistance, not because of what they said, but how they said it. So if you want to change the outcome of your conversations, stop rehearsing better lines. Start regulating your inner world, because your tone is your soul speaking aloud. There's a reason why calm voices de-escalate tension, why warm tones restore trust, why certain people can say difficult things and still leave us feeling respected. It's not their vocabulary, it's their vibration. Your tone is the emotional climate of your message, and people will remember that climate long after they forget your words. That's why it's not enough to mean well. You have to sound well. You have to carry peace in your body, or else your voice will betray your unrest. Because when someone says, "I'm not upset," but their voice tightens, we believe the voice, not the sentence. When someone says, "I support you," but their tone sounds critical, we brace ourselves, not because we doubt their words, but because their voice doesn't feel safe. And maybe no one ever taught you this, but changing your tone isn't about performance. It's about alignment. It's about slowing down enough to let your words and your heart arrive at the same time. Try it now. Breathe before you speak. Ask yourself, what do I want them to feel from this message? Then speak from that feeling, not about it. If you want them to feel seen, let your voice slow down and soften. If you want them to feel inspired, let your tone rise gently, not forcefully. If you want them to feel safe, let your volume match their nervous system, not your agenda. And above all, pause. Because in that pause, your nervous system settles, your clarity returns, and your voice becomes less reactive and more real. You don't have to sound perfect. You just have to sound present. I once watched a man apologize to his daughter, not because of what he said, but because of how he said it. "I didn't raise my voice," he told me, confused. But when she heard his tone, cold, rushed, coated with frustration, her spirit closed. Because what she needed wasn't volume control, she needed emotional presence. And that's what we often forget. People aren't just listening to the data in our words. They're scanning for safety, for love, for truth. And when our tone doesn't match our message, we confuse them. We say thank you with a tight jaw. We say I love you while distracted. We say I understand with a tone that sounds like judgment. And in those moments, we disconnect without realizing it. But here's the grace in all this. Your tone is not fixed. It's flexible. It follows your inner weather. If you learn to calm your breath, your tone will follow. If you lead with humility, your tone will soften. If you drop your ego, your voice will carry less resistance and more reverence. Because that's what great communicators do. They don't just edit their words, they align their presence. They don't rush to sound right, they slow down to be real. So before you speak, pause. Ask, is my tone reflecting love or fear, connection or control? You might be surprised how often the answer invites you back to stillness. And from that stillness, your voice returns to what it was always meant to be. A bridge, not a barrier. An offering, not a weapon. So, from this day forward, remember, your tone speaks before your truth does. And if you truly want to change the outcome, you don't need to raise your voice. You need to raise your awareness. Because it's not enough to be right. You must also be resonant. Not enough to speak clearly. You must also speak kindly. Not enough to say what's true. You must say it in a way that the heart can receive. Tone is where trust is born or broken. It's the texture of your care. It's the evidence of your emotional maturity. And it's the part of your voice people never forget, because it told them the real story of what you felt. So speak from stillness, not from stress. Speak from presence, not performance. And when you don't know what to say, pause. Let the silence carry your peace until your voice can follow it. Because in the end, your tone doesn't just shape conversations. It shapes the way people feel in your presence. And if they feel safe, if they feel respected, if they feel seen, not because you chose the perfect words, but because you chose to speak them with love, then you've already changed the outcome. And you've already begun the kind of leadership the world longs for. Leadership that doesn't shout to be heard, that doesn't pressure to persuade, that doesn't dominate to direct, but speaks with quiet clarity, with spiritual integrity, with a voice that heals simply by how it sounds.